Kacey's one of our charity patrons. And how long have you been with us now? About 3-4 years?
I think it might be longer than that, you know.
Oh, is it?
I think it might be. Yeah, I think, yeah. I always go by hairstyles because I had very, very long
Yeah, I've got
hair.
quite a few photographs of you with long hair, up hair.
And I had quite long hair, and I think that must have been long ginger hair. That must have been at least like 3, 4, yeah, maybe 5 years ago, yeah, something like that. But anyway, long time, long enough.
Yeah. So Kacey supports a lot of our events. Autism's Got Talent, hence why I've got it in the back. I'm getting withdrawal symptoms because we haven't been doing it. It's just like, oh. But tell me a little bit about you for people who don't know who you are. So just a little bit about your background, if you don't mind, Kacey.
Well, in terms of my autism background, my son who's there and my partner who's there, they both have, my son has a diagnosis of what they used to say Asperger's, but it's autism, isn't it? It's ASC, ASD, however you want to describe yourself. And also he's dyspraxic as well. And that led to my partner being diagnosed as well. So when my son was diagnosed, lots of things fell into place. He was 3.5, and lots of things fell into place for my partner. And so we kind of went on an autism journey, I suppose, because we suddenly went, well, this is something that we recognise, and we have to learn more about it and learn how to live with it and learn how to thrive with it. And a lot of that is, you know, it was to do with, you know, meeting you and understanding lots more about the condition for myself and how it affects our family. And so, yeah, we just went on, you know, what I call is it's like a little journey. It's like the treadmill. You kind of start, and there are some bits where the treadmill stops and shuts you off. And then there are other times when you feel like everything's going forward. It's normally those times that you've got to really worry, because when you think everything's just sorted and safe, then it all goes like that. But
have you ever met anyone with autism before? Heard about autism before? Before your son was diagnosed?
Well, my daughter, my sister's boy has ADHD. So okay. I suppose I'd probably learn a little bit about ADHD itself, and obviously knowing Jack all these years, I can see that there are specific points about ADHD that make it very different in some ways, but otherwise it can be similar. It's individual, isn't it? It's always an individual condition. So that was kind of my first kind of thought in, and also my sister's very dyslexic. So again, she had things to do with, I suppose, what they used to call in the 1970s, you know, special needs provision and those kinds of things. So, so I suppose that was the only way. And I didn't really know about, you know, the fact that it was a spectrum. I think that was the thing that surprised me a lot, was the fact that everybody, you know, because people would often talk about it and say, well, what does that practically mean for you? And I said, well, you don't know. And you don't know what it means for anybody on the spectrum. You have to kind of find out as you go along and where you are. And some parts of the spectrum you might be, you know, quite high on, and other parts of the spectrum it might not bother you so much. So it's the same as everybody. It's about painting your own picture of autism, isn't it? And what's right for you and what's individual for you. So yeah, I didn't really know it, didn't really understand it. And I was very fortunate. I had a friend at school who pointed me in the right direction, because her son was autistic, and he was my daughter's friend. And so she told me about, there's an organisation in Hertfordshire called Advance. And basically they help parents who've got diagnosis of autism, which there's not many places out there that actually will help the parents. There's a lot of which sometimes focuses on the child, but not necessarily the parents. And so I went along to one of their courses, and it's just like literally the top of your head comes off, and you think, this is why the difficulties have been. And again, same, my partner went for his own course and sat there and just was like, this is why I was like this as a child. This is why this was so difficult for me. This is why these things are still so difficult for me. And one of the things that I think a lot about autism is the people who haven't got a diagnosis, or the people who have diagnosis in adulthood, and how much of an impact that makes on them, because we do look at kids so much now. And I mean, obviously we all know provision is terrible, and it's a postcode lottery and all of that, but there at least is conversations that are had. But I think there's so many people who could understand themselves so much more if they knew how their brain worked.
So how's your son and your husband get on together?
Well, they communicate in a very different way to how they communicate with everybody else. There's quite a lot of shouting, and there's quite a lot of, conflict resolution that I feel like I'm the referee of a lot of the time, because yes, they are very different with their autism, but also they're not so bothered about the way they communicate. I am. So I sit there and go, you can't communicate in this way. And actually, they're very happy to communicate in this way. So
have they got their own little language?
I think they just, I think I tune into my son's funny personality a lot more than my partner does.
Okay.
So I think they do that, but I don't know whether they have their own little language. I
know my husband and Patrick, they have this like code, if you like, and it's just like, I'm thinking, what does that mean, what is that about? And it's just, and it's quite repetitive, and then they might do it again the next day and then the next day, and it's just like, right, okay, so
okay, this is their way. But I did find that. I found that they just communicate in a different way, and a lot of it is quite it doesn't have the social norms, so it doesn't have the nice language around it or whatever, those kinds of things. It's quite forward driven, and will be like this, and then we'll be gone and moving on. Whereas they don't seem to, neither of them sulk. They're not sulkers, which I think's amazing, that they don't sulk. I mean, that's probably something they just have in common. They just move on to the next.
So how's things been with you with lockdown when it all started? And obviously you've got teenagers in the house, so how was it for you? Were you okay with it? Were you a referee? Was everyone in their own rooms? How was it?
I thought it would play into my son's hands. Do you know what I mean? Because I thought to myself, he doesn't have to deal with all the stress of going to school and the social aspect and the things that he has to keep in at school that then come out when he gets home. I thought this is going to really play into his hands, and actually he might really like it. Obviously Zoom, we're all used to it now, but actually that might be a better form of communication with people for him. So I think the first kind of 5-7 weeks, when he was doing stuff at home and doing school provision at home, I have to say I was very lucky. School were amazing. He was really quite engaged and quite enjoying it. And I was surprised to see that after about 2 months, they kind of dropped off a bit, and he really craved actual contact with friends. And I didn't think that would be the case. I thought he would, enjoy just this contact because it's controllable, and because he can zone in and zone out, and he could set his own agenda. So he could decide at his own schedule. And also, it was very routine bound. So, the school sent out a timetable and he had it, and some bits he did via Zoom and other bits he did on his own. But actually, like I say, after 2 months, he really did crave the contact with his peers. And so when we were allowed to do that, when they were allowed to meet in bubbles, or when we were allowed to have one family over as a bubble, it was amazing how much I saw that he missed that communication. So been a learning curve on that front. And then he was one of the only year 7s to go back to school. So he went back to school for about nearly 2 weeks. He was exhausted. So, but after 3 days, he'd lost his voice, because obviously he just could not stop talking. And he was physically exhausted. Oh, hang on. It's gone low power. I've got to plug it in. Yeah, no, 1 sec. One sec. Talk, Hannah, talk.
I think those paintings at the back that they've done, they were amazing. I love them.
They are absolutely amazing. I absolutely love those.
I love Kacey. She's just so down to earth, and she's just like says it how it is.
I'm coming back.
Can you hear the noise clattering in the back?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That was being charged all night. I don't know what happened to it. Anyway, back.
Oh, just
What happened? What happened? Where were you?
This had to do from Trishna, who's saying, I think you raised a really good point, Kacey, about how hard it must be for people who haven't yet had a diagnosis. Once you have a diagnosis, you can then start being practical and accessing the right support, whatever the condition. Without a diagnosis, it's harder. And that's generally, and why generally we need to make sure that the importance of early diagnosis continues to be on the agenda.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of teenagers that I meet, and people who are having difficulties at school, and you kind of want to say, look, I think you may need to explore this. There's been such a there's always such a reticence to explore, you know, who you are, and yet, you know, there's so much talk about mental health, but yet people don't actually think, well, maybe I have two traits. I might not have a full diagnosis, but I might have two traits of autism, and so therefore I can help myself in that way. It's kind of like a self-discovery, and I worry about children who maybe are excluded from schools, and then go on to be adults who are excluded from schools. I mean, I look at my partner's experience from being a teenager, clearly having autism, and the difficulties that he faced, and some of the measures and things that happened in his life to him and that he did to himself, because he just didn't understand where he fitted into the world. And I mean, I think now a lot of kids get into trouble, and I would bet that you'd look at a Young Offenders Institute and you'd probably find a lot of people in there who are probably on the spectrum, or, you know, have got a spectrum disorder or condition, and they're just undiagnosed, and so they've, you know, become very down about themselves, or just acted out because they feel like an alien in their own world. You know, they're living in a world that's not designed for them. So it's so hard.
We've got a question about food issues. Sarah was asking about that. So do you have food issues? Because I know in my house I have to make separate meals for everybody, and I just pick up what they're having. Just can't be bothered to make what I want. So do you have food issues?
Yeah, really big food issues. Yeah, Elwood has a particular amount of food, and then therefore, you know, that he eats, and we kind of rotate that and try and mix that into. But I'm making. My daughter and I would eat the same thing, but yeah, my partner had serious food issues when he was younger, to the point where he literally, when he went on holiday, he couldn't get over the fact that he was in Spain and it was Spanish food that he was eating, and so he pretty much didn't eat anything for the entirety of the holiday and came back very ill and very emaciated. But that's because he couldn't get over the fact that he just couldn't get past it. He just couldn't get past it at the time. And now he's pretty good. He will say, I will try it. But you look at him when he's trying something new, because he knows that he should, because he's 53 and he should. And he does. He will look at it, and he'll look at it for ages, and it's fear. I mean, it's not that he's being petulant. He's actually afraid of it. And that's you know, you're asking someone, you're like saying to someone, you know, who's got any kind of phobia or you know, about something, oh, you know, let's stick it on your hand right now, you know, jumping that on them every time they eat dinner. How awful is that? You know, how much would that play with your head? So food issues. And what you could get,
Patrick doesn't like watching his dad eat. He can't sit next to him. So it's just like, because he doesn't like the mouth action. And then Angelo likes to play with his food. He doesn't like to use a knife and a fork, although I try to get him to use it, obviously, because when we're out. But he loves to squeeze the chips and before he eats them. And Patrick thinks that absolutely disgusting, gross. He couldn't possibly do that. Where with Patrick, he doesn't like any splashes on him or anything. So they're all completely different.
Completely different. Yeah, we have that. We have the chewing thing. The chewing thing is a big issue in the house. Is a chewing thing, and also because obviously Elwood's dyspraxic, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So food is all around the plate and all around him, so you know he knocks things over a lot. So we have we have a bit of that. But you know, that to me, you know, you just kind of go, well, this is our family, this is who we are.
Yeah.
You know, we have one who's really messy, one who can't stand the sound of it, of people chewing, and then somehow me in the middle trying to go, well, you know, you know, trying to sort everyone out, trying to get everybody to be okay. But you know, we put the leaf in our table so they were further away from each other to see if that'd help.
So how do you
tried to make our table massive.
How do you look after yourself? What's your self-care? Because obviously being at home, you know, watching more about I've learned more as well about my partner and my sons and everything, and you just notice things more, don't you? Because obviously you're trying to juggle, go here, there, and you know what it's like. So how do you look after yourself? Because I'm always advocating for parents to take 5 wherever it is, go for a walk, go and jump in the bathroom, shut the door, jump up and down, scream, whatever it is that you want to do it to get some time for yourself. So what do you do?
Well, you were the first person who said that, and you said that to me, and I realized that my glass was seriously empty, and I was trying to, you know, kind of keep on top of everybody. And so it is really important to do that. I guess I forget to do that quite often as well, especially now when you're kind of the linchpin for keeping everybody afloat, you know. But I suppose I live in a really lovely place, and I walk my dogs, and I think it's the walking of my dogs every morning that gives me that ability to do that. However, my children are old enough for me to leave them here whilst I go and walk the dogs. Whereas if you've got younger children or lots of children with differing abilities, you know, you can't do that. So it is the bathroom, is this escape to the bathroom. Although, you know, I don't know about anybody else, but I think I must have spent 6 years with a little boy sitting on my lap every time I went to the loo. Because he would never let me go.
Talking to you through the door.
Yeah, and you'd go, can you, yeah, I'll be out in a minute, but the stress of him not being in there. So yeah, I don't even know whether he's nearly 13, he might follow me in if he was having a bad day. But yeah, so I think it's important to remember, and I do forget that quite a lot, and especially during lockdown.
I was just
so what's happening in the entertainment business? I was just going to say, Kacey, because obviously that's your job. So how is it impacting on you? To talk just about something a little bit different to autism. It
died overnight, literally died overnight. So I was working up until the end of 2021, and then suddenly I had no job, no nothing. So it was really tough. I was rehearsing a play that was going to be in town, and then I was going straight back onto Grantchester, and just went. So in terms of that being my escape, as in being somebody else. Because that's always a good escape, because I'm not being me, I'm being someone else. I couldn't do that either. So yeah, really hard, really difficult, but things are slowly getting back. And I've done quite a few things over Zoom. So I've made a Zoom film that's gone out on Discover Film, and also I had a couple of films that were coming out. So I've had things that have come out during that time. So you've still got an opportunity to do a bit of press and to talk about them, and to meet up with your other compadres and have we had a Zoom premiere of the film, or one of the films that we did, and that again did very well because of lockdown, because people were home. So we had a positive upswing on our film because people were home watching it, and they absolutely loved it. And yeah, so that went really well. And so the two girls were on Women's Hour, two lead girls were on Women's Hour, and so it was reviewed really well. So I have been keeping busy. I do voiceovers from home. I've got a studio upstairs. So I do that. So there's been bits to do and things to think about, but also Grantchester 6 was then recommissioned, so I knew I was going to be doing that at some point. That Sarah's happy. Sarah's very happy. So Grantchester 6 has been recommissioned, and it was, and we were also in America, so we had to do, lots of press around Instagram, things like that. So there's been stuff, but it's not the same as donning my wig.
No.
Getting on.
I think Tally wanted to ask you something.
No, I was just wondering how supportive the press have been about your story. And
the press, did you say?
And just media in general, because sometimes I think celebrities get a hard time when they talk about anything. It sort of becomes a bit difficult. I think you know, you get a lot of trolls. You might say something and then all of a sudden, what makes you the expert? Who is this person? So it's sort of a double-edged sword, you know. And do they think that perhaps you have loads of money and that you can have access to support and all of that kind of thing? So people have this misconceptions of what being a celebrity is, and that perhaps that, you know, you're getting an easier ride than the rest of us because of your status.
Yeah, you get all of that, all those bits that you've said, all of that happens. That's exactly what happens. Yeah, and people, sometimes people get upset with the terminology that you use, because they'll say, you know, that terminology is outdated. I prefer to refer to myself like this or this. And so, you know, you're constantly learning, aren't you? You're constantly learning what people like. And I don't dismiss anybody. Trolls, obviously, you just block them. Don't listen to them, because, you know, what can you do if they're hell-bent on having a fight, or you come off your social media if it's too much. The press generally don't really understand autism. And most of the press that I like to do is in relation to what Anna's doing, or what around autism, because I think that that's part of my job. Where, you know, when Anna approached me, this is part of my job. So if I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it in relation to Autism's Got Talent, or the road shows, or all the other things that Anna's doing, or that everyone else is doing. And I'd prefer to, rather than to have an expose on my son, who it's his autism, it's not mine. He's happy for me to talk about it. I've actually, you know, obviously I've asked him that. But rather than talk about him too much, I'd prefer to keep it to what the positive things that we're doing around autism, and how we're trying just to educate people to be, it's not even be kinder, it's just to not judge. You know, don't judge people. It's the same as with the mask situation now with everybody out. You know, don't judge someone who's not got a mask on. Don't think they're ignorant or whatever. They might be, but that's not your place to judge. They may find that a really difficult situation for them. I know my son does, and we've had to do lots of different things in order to, and try lots of different masks in order to make him feel more comfortable. And he understands why he's got to have it on, and also he's quite paranoid about not touching things and all of that as well. So that plays into some of his, you know, his sensory issues anyway. But yeah, again, it's an individual thing, and I think that that's what the press don't understand. They don't understand the individuality of the condition. They think that it's just kind of blanket, and that's what annoys me. They like to generalise a lot. But yeah, all the other things, yeah, people think that. I mean, I think I have met someone at my local council who was actually, it was to my detriment that I was on television, because she had a chip on her shoulder about it.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's a double-edged sword for you, because I can imagine it's probably actually harder for you than for other people, because of who you are, to get stuff, because people seem to, I don't know, have all these preconceived ideas of what your life is like, and what all, so I can imagine it must be harder.
Yeah, and you do come across people who will be difficult with you, and then will say something like, and will actually literally say it to your face, you know, we're not going to give you any special treatment just because you're on the television. And you think to yourself,
wow. So how have you found your journey? I was going to ask you, how's your journey been with us so far? What have you discovered anything new since you've been working with the charity? Because obviously we do Autism's Got Talent, we've got the Autism Hero Awards, and thank you for supporting us always. So what have you learned about being with us, or joining us on our journey, if you like?
I think the overriding thing that I've learned about it is not even learnt about it, is the people that I've met, the wonderful, wonderful people that I've met. It makes my heart sing. I'm going to cry.
Oh no!
Just meeting some amazing people, and I just think it's wonderful what people do, and the work that everybody does to make you know, Anna Kennedy online the focus for people to go somewhere where it's just happy and about thriving and about moving on. And I think it's not even about what you do, it's the people I've met. I've just absolutely adored it. Just meeting just wonderful people. I can't say any more than that. That's it. Just brilliant.
Yeah, our family seems to be growing and growing. The AKO family, we call it. And obviously we are frustrated that we can't do what we normally do, but we keep thinking out of the box. So obviously we're doing things like this. I didn't even know what Zoom was until lockdown. Did you?
No.
Me neither.
No,
So,
and I never thought I'd be able to handle this bit. You know, the fact that we kind of talk over each other at points, or that sometimes you go what, or your phone goes down. I never thought I'd be able to handle that kind of weirdness of communication. But it's amazing that we all do, and we don't mind, do we? If somebody talks over you, you just stop and then wait until it's your turn.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously we had our first expo a couple of weeks ago, and we weren't sure how that was going to go, because normally we'd be at Brunel University, and it went really, really well. So it proves that things can be done out of the box. But for me, I still like meeting people. I like that facial, you know, and this, you know, we're doing it, aren't we? But it's just like
the only
not my real world.
The real advantage, what I found is that people were able to access this that would never have been able to come to the environment. So people came to the expo that were in Scotland or whatever, and all of a sudden you've opened up a global market rather than a localized one. So
we can run it in parallel, can't we?
And I think it's changed everything in business now. So we will. So when we run the live event, we will live stream the event as well, so more people have access. So there's positives and negatives about all of it, but it's what you do with this, you know, new world that we're living in. But I've got a lovely message from Trishna that everyone at the charity is so brilliant. I feel so lucky to have met you all, especially because I've had no experience with autism before meeting Anna on Strictly.
Yeah, did you know I was on Strictly? Did you know we were on Strictly, Trishna? Oh, that was 5 years ago. I can't believe it. 5
It's
years
amazing,
ago.
isn't it? It's amazing. It was such a long time ago. I can't believe it's gone that quickly. But yeah, they'll have to have you back again, won't they?
Yeah, well, apparently I was reading about some of the celebrities saying they don't pay enough, 60 grand. I thought, hey, I'll do it for nothing. 60 grand, that's what they were saying. So I thought, wow. Anyway, has anyone got any questions that's listening in to us now that they might like to ask Kacey? Oh,
here we go. Are there people typing?
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Sarah. She's just saying I've been a support for 9 years.
Yeah. Well, Sarah's been a great support of mine as well. You know, she's always putting messages on Twitter, aren't you? Which is brilliant. It's really lovely. It's really lovely because I always see them.
Hello. Bobby saying he just wants to say he loves you on EastEnders. Now, Bobby is somebody that talked on women's radio station with me. He's a young man on the spectrum, and he's also written a book. So he gave me a copy of his book.
Oh, that's nice. That's good. Yeah, EastEnders is, and he's even further away than Strictly. God, it was 2006.
How long ago was that?
2006 I left that, and you know, and one of the reasons was, you know, that I stopped working was because I had a son with autism, because it just became too difficult. The schedule is completely you don't know what you're doing from one week to the next. So you get a schedule on a Friday night for the Monday, so you can't plan anything, and then that schedule can change. So you'll get you'll get maybe cast illness, maybe they haven't got scripts ready. There will be something that will change, so you can't, and you also don't have a beginning or end time. So it was the chaos and the uncertainty just didn't fit with what I needed to do. And I tried to do it loads of ways. I tried to have, you know, little stick people to do social stories for Elwood so that he knew, you know, where I was going and what I was doing and why I was doing it. And it just, the distress that it caused him when I worked was too much, because even if I left the house for half an hour, or if I left the house for 2 days, his distress was as big. It was like I'd gone away forever and that I I wasn't ever coming back. He couldn't really understand that part of it, and so therefore, yeah, I just had to stop. I had to stop working, and that, and for the time I was the main breadwinner. So and so we just kind of swapped roles, really. My partner then started his own business and said, well, I'll build my business while you stay at home. So, we did the same things that everybody has to do out there. We tightened our belt. We, didn't go on holidays. We, did all of those things, sold the things that we didn't need. And I stayed at home just to try and find some kind of stability for him. And it, yeah, it was good to do that now, but I was able to do it. And there's so many people out there who aren't able to do it, and all the hospital appointments you have to go to, and all the people you have to see, and all of that, there's all of those things. You can't do it and work. You just can't. And so all of the people who who are out there who didn't have a partner who could support them, or were single parents, or had to go to work because they needed that both incomes coming in, or didn't have any family help. I used to sit there and think, how do you do it? How do you do that? Or had more than one child on the spectrum. There is a non-allowance in some ways for people who to have help when in those early years, and that's the time when you need it the most.
You do. I'm always banging on about early intervention, but a lot of the local authorities wait till it's at a crisis point and then they start throwing money at it. It's just like, why didn't you do it earlier on when they were children?
Totally,
it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, because my son was diagnosed quite early, so I suppose at 3.5 we were already. Well, he was 2.5 when it was kind of picked up because of his non-verbal, and also he wasn't hitting all of those milestones. And then when he was 3.5, I started the process, and then he wasn't actually diagnosed till 6.5, but we started with the idea that this is who he was, and so we started with all of our stuff then. And I look at the difference between him and children who have later diagnosis. I don't have behavioural issues with my son at school. I've never been called into school because of his behaviour, and I think it's because the whole school took on board everything. They were absolutely amazing, and I was fortunate enough to go to an independent school. So therefore good. They had the time. Yeah, and
if they can't get it right in the independent school, I always say there's a place for a special school and there's a place for mainstream. If they just put the right support in place, it can work.
It was so easy. I mean, I read his school reports and I think to myself, this is wonderful and lovely. The things that they're saying about him and the friends that he has and how inclusive he is. And even with, other children in my daughter's year who went to the same school, just brilliant, just absolutely fantastic. And so therefore are thriving as adults. I mean, I've got yet to go through the adolescent phase. My son is 12 and a half.
Look at you.
And he's already starting. My daughter and I keep looking at each other and going, it's happening. But so I'm withholding judgment. I'm saying, oh, he's really good and he does great at school. But you know what? I could be next year, we could be having this conversation. I could be going, it's awful. He's been excluded. He's done all of that. So, it's that thing. Oh, somebody's got 2 teens with autism. Oh, bless you. give me tips. Give me tips straight away. Tell me what to do when it all hits.
Kacey, I was wondering, what would you say is your biggest fear for your son in the future? What is Anna and I often sort of worry about similar things now as our kids are getting older. What would you say is your biggest fear? Because I think mine and Anna's is the same fear, and we're doing our best to try and work out solutions of what we're going to do when we're not here, basically. That's our biggest fear.
Yeah, I think there's that, and there's also, I suppose for me, it's all the problems around relationships and having a relationship, and how that will manifest itself with him, and the fallout of maybe that not working out for him, and his mental health, as well. I worry about that. Maybe him not telling me things that are worrying him more as he gets older, because he doesn't feel like he should or can, or doesn't have the words or doesn't understand. I think I'm probably more fearful now than I was when he was kind of in junior school. of the next phase, because it's all unknown. But if it's unknown for me, it's unknown for him as well. And at least we're going in with an idea of how things are. Yeah. So it's tough. It's tough. Yeah.
And also it can take a little bit longer, you know, like obviously you speak to Patrick a lot.
I do. Well, again, I love Patrick. He's great. I just love, you always sit me next to him and I always go, yay, I get to sit next to Patrick. Because we always have really good chats.
For him, it's taken a little bit longer, hasn't it, to get to the point that he's got a full-time job now, and he finds it really difficult still. And then obviously now he's just got himself a part-time place with something he loves. And I've been saying that for so long. Why don't you get yourself a job for something? But he thought, oh, it's a hobby, it might ruin it. And I thought, I sort of get that. But now he's got a place. You know what? I can see a huge difference in him, because he's got a place. He was worried he wasn't going to get a place. Will they accept me? Will they like me? And obviously he hasn't started yet. But now it's the worry of the juggle of working and doing a part-time degree. So I think we're in for still some more fun times ahead. But, you just got to take it a day at a time. That's all you can do.
I think a lot of people think that about doing their hobby as their job, and they're upset them. But obviously that acting, I started off, I started as a professional when I was 8, but also I did a lot of youth theatre and other things, and it, doing my hobby that started off as my job, it didn't ruin it at all. It made it obviously makes it better, because you're able to do that all day and every day. And I know how much Patrick likes his paleontology and all of that, and his dinosaurs and all the rest of it, and I know how much he's going to enjoy doing his course. So hopefully it will be a good one. Always that, isn't it? It's always that.
So what have you got, any projects coming up?
So they had a big meeting yesterday about Grantchester, so yes, so we should be starting that soon. It's we've got to keep everybody safe, and we can't be just filming everywhere and then spreading our COVID everywhere if we had it. So we have to be really safe about how we're doing it, and where we're doing it. So it was a big meeting yesterday, so that's good. And that, I think, we'll start probably in September, I think. But,
okay.
Second spikes, everything's very up in the air. So, and then I have a project called The Piper, which is a 10-part drama that I did with Townsend Althwaite, which is on Radio 4. So it's an audio drama, so we're obviously able to do it. So that's really brilliant. It's a really brilliant, and it's written by an ex-EastEnders writer, two writers. And so that's really lovely. So that's coming out as well. And then I also did something just before lockdown. I just got it into Spain. I did something called the Mallorca Files, which is kind of a detective-y drama. And they literally creosoted me. So I look quite brown now, but they because I was playing a Spanish expat Gulf wife. So I was so creosoted orange. And it's a really lovely part. She's very funny. So I did, and that's coming out in October as well. And that's called Mallorca Files. So lots of bits and bobs coming out. And also I've got another thing that we're pitching at the moment, which is the thing that's on Discover Film. And that was filmed by the Wade brothers, who I did Huntington Gardens with. So yeah, lots of stuff is always here. But theatre-wise, my theatre show, I don't think that's going to come back. I don't think we're going to do.
I know they're talking about Panto as well, because I love a Panto. That makes my Christmas, and they're saying that they might not go ahead. They might go ahead, so we'll just have to wait and see, won't we?
It's so hard. I don't know, because Panto's so interactive as well. Everybody's always shouting and yelling, all the rest of it, But you can shout and yell behind your mask, I'm sure. But yeah, everybody's got to be safe, and that's the utmost in everybody's mind, I think. So as much as we all want to get out there, we're all desperate to get out there. I should have started on 30th of June. So, I'm already a month behind, but we just have to do what we do.
Okay, so we're coming to the end. So has anyone got anything they want to ask? They were desperate to ask Kacey before she goes.
Can I go and get my cup of oat coffee?
No? Okay, well, if you wanted to send a message via the website, you can, and we can pass them on.
I just wanted to read some of the messages, and Bobby was saying that he was bullied by staff in mainstream, and he didn't get the autism diagnosis till he was 13, and now he's an author and a songwriter, and he's got a new song out. So congratulations to
Brilliant.
Bobby.
Yeah, congratulations, Bobby.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, send it to us and we'll
send it. Yeah, send it to Anna. She'll put it out there. No, it's brilliant.
And Sarah Wood saying, I have cerebral palsy. I went to a special school to learn to speak and then went to mainstream school, speech therapy. So I understand that. I understand where you're coming from, not knowing about the future. So we all know that's a really, really difficult thing, because we never knew this was coming along for a start. So it's hard to plan for anything. But I just think community is the big thing. And I think, you know, if we didn't have things like Anna Kennedy Online, and we are so supportive and we love, you know, all the things that we do, we're so passionate about what we do, but it keeps us going. Without things like this, when you're on your own, you're literally, Google becomes your best friend, and that's when things start to go downhill and depression kicks in and things like that. So, you know, all of us volunteers for Anna Kennedy Online, we're passionate about everything that we do, and we love it so much, and we really appreciate people like you, Kacey, sort of supporting us. It means a lot to us, so thank you so much. I mean, from myself,
well, I get the other way. I get the support of you guys, which it means so much to me. So very, you know, giving 40 minutes on a Zoom is nothing, and coming to watch and be entertained by people, I mean, really wonderfully entertained, just brilliant. I brought my whole family. You know, they ask, when can we go again, and just to watch people who you can see might struggle in you know, everyday life, and then they get up on stage and something magical happens to them. And I just think that's fantastic, what that can do to just move you, and how you can use that as a, you know, as a neurotypical person. I do that, obviously I'm somebody else, but I often say to my kids, you know, if you can put a cloak on of someone else's and just walk on stage. When I do just one last thing, when I'm very nervous, when I'm very scared about doing a show, and it's a big show, I always wear a cloak of gold. So I imagine myself in a cloak of gold, because I just feel like then it means that I'm kind of, you know, floating like, you know, Obi-Wan or something onto the stage. And whenever I'm in a situation that I don't like, I put on cloaks, and weirdly that just really helps me. I feel like I'm protected or surrounded by something. If I'm not feeling well, it's a green cloak, and if I'm feeling okay, it's a blue cloak. And that may be completely may seem completely mad, but it just the cloak of gold definitely works. And if you don't want a cloak of gold, put some gold coins in your hand, shut your hand, and then they're in there, and only you know they're in there. And they're little things that I think, you know, you can do to help yourself if you're feeling anxious or a bit out of sorts, you know. And everybody's got their own thing to do, but that's mine. So stick your cloaks of gold on today, girls. That's
brilliant. Absolutely fabulous NLP technique that we use in therapy to get people to have their shield around them, and that's your shield, and it works brilliantly. And you found what works for you, and I think we all have our little tricks of what we do to help us get through to the next thing. But it's fantastic to hear what you do, and I love the cloak of gold. You know, it's a really beautiful thing to visualize at just before you're about to do something. That's brilliant.
Well, just want to say thank you so much, Kacey, for chatting to us today. And we had a message just now saying, can we have more of these? And our next one, I'm always one step ahead, you know, I'm like, so Richard Mylan is going to be our next guest, and that's going to be on 10th of September at 7:30. We thought we'd try an evening one. So Richard Mylan is an actor, again, another supporter of our charity, and also his son, Jacko. I don't know if you've seen any of their BBC documentaries. Amazing, absolutely love them. If you haven't, just type in Google Richard Mylan and Jacko, and you can watch some of their documentaries. So that will be 10th of September at 7:30. So we'll be sharing the Zoom link very soon. So thank you, Kacey. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, and everybody.
Really appreciate, and hopefully next year we'll see you at Autism's Got Talent, our 10th year. Can you believe it? 10th year birthday. So that,
yeah.
so we've
If
already
you haven't
booked it.
been, go get your tickets. If you've not been, get your tickets and come along. It's one of the best evenings I've ever had in a theatre. And don't tell any of my other friends that.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and keep safe, keep well, keep strong.
Thank you. Bye, Sarah. Bye. Take care. Bye.